Hey everybody, Coach Toolshed here. In today's video, I don't have any funny little jokes to tell because I got nothing funny to say in this video. I have a serious topic to discuss. One that is getting worse by the day and one that is being fully exposed and is blatantly transparent and stuff that we've known for many years but is just being laid completely bare right now, and that is the absolute and utter hypocrisy and lying going on by the games media. Specifically today, I want to discuss stuff that's going on with the Epic Games Store and the conversation that revolves around that, because every time I open up my phone and I go into my news feed, I keep getting hit with articles that are being written that are just absolute nonsense coming from games journalists, while they ignore stories that go completely against the narrative that they keep wanting to push. And today I want to go back and reference a video I made a couple days ago about the indie developer for the game Dark, D-A-R-Q, Dark with a Q. And the name of the developer is Unfold Games. Now, if you didn't watch the video, I'll just give you a quick recap. Basically, what's going on is you had a developer that came out and pretty much exposed the Epic Games Store and their double standards when it comes to putting games on their platform and how they're handling exclusivity on their platform, and basically showing everyone that the stuff that's coming out of Epic and Tim Sweeney and the conversation that keeps being pushed by the games media, that the Epic Games Store just wants to be competitive and they just want competition in the gaming sphere, and they're trying to change the PC gaming space and they just want fair competition, how that's just all kind of a lie, and how they're not actually looking out for indie developers at all. They're just trying to bulldoze their way into the market, and that's what's going on here. Now, the developer didn't come out and say those words himself. All the developer did was expose a couple of pieces of information about the way that Epic is handling the way they approach indie developers when their games are about to launch. The developer explained how Epic swooped in only after he announced the release date for his game on Steam, and that is when Epic came in and say, hey, here, we'd like to offer you some cash to get your game exclusively on our store. And when the developer said, no, I promised people a Steam release and they're gonna get a Steam release, well, then all of a sudden Epic isn't interested in the deal anymore. They don't want to put his game up on the store. And people are saying, well, yeah, they have to curate the storefront. Well, they apparently already thought that this game was good enough to put on their storefront. That's why they contacted the developer in the first place. But then when the developer says, no, I don't want to have exclusivity with you because I don't want to break promises that I made to my customers, well, all of a sudden that's a big issue. Epic doesn't like that. So much for Tim saying that he wants fair competition, because what could be more fair and competitive, Tim, than just allowing the game to be released on all storefronts and seeing what happens? I think it's because you know that people would not choose to go and use your launcher. And for all the talk from Tim Sweeney and the people that will defend the Epic Games Store in the media, you keep hearing the same tired argument. Oh, well, they just care about the revenue split. It's all about the revenue split. Well, if that was actually the case, why wouldn't you let this indie developer reap the benefits of that revenue split on your storefront as well? This is just clear nonsense. But what I really want to discuss today isn't the Epic Games Store conversation, because that has been well hashed out. What I want to discuss is what I have seen as a reaction from people in the gaming media, both people trying to hide this story about the developer from Dark doing right by their customers, and people in the gaming media, including very high-profile people such as Jason Schreier, who is probably, I would say, the most high-profile journalist in gaming media, going out and disparaging the developer because he had the audacity to keep his promise to the customer base. People like Jason Schreier and others are calling this guy a martyr on Twitter, saying that he is doing something nefarious and pandering to gamers by keeping his commitment and keeping a Steam release. Simply by doing right by the customer, it makes this developer an enemy of people like Jason Schreier, the supposed warrior who guards the gates of all developers against us evil and toxic gamers. Well, here we have a situation where gamers are overtly praising this developer in any forum you go into, and the only people you will see disparaging him are people like Jason Schreier and other industry analysts like Matt Piscatella, also calling him a martyr. And you see complete silence when it comes to this conversation because they don't want to discuss a developer who dared to go against the Epic Game Store and tell Tim Sweeney no, because that goes against their pro-Epic Game Store narrative. Because at this point, we're now, 8-9 months into the Epic Game Store's relaunch, where they've been snatching up all these exclusive, and what we've seen now is the mainstream gaming media is 100% in the bag for the Epic Game Store. Every article they write showcases this. And I want to discuss something that I saw that was written last night, an article that got posted on, where else? Kotaku. An article about a game that got announced for an Epic Game Store exclusivity this week at Gamescom. Oddsworld. There's a new Oddsworld game came out. Maybe you remember the old Oddsworld game. Well, there's a new one coming out. And it's going to be an Epic Game Store exclusive. And they preemptively wrote an article talking about how developers now have to look out and try to guard against harassment by preemptively writing stories about why they're going to be on the Epic Game Store. Once again, it's another anti-gamer, all gamers care about is harassing developers type of story. And he's writing it about a game that made an announcement about Epic Store exclusivity earlier this week, and there has been absolutely zero backlash headed towards the developer. There has not been. I even tried to find some backlash today. I went actively trying to find people that were disparaging the developer and couldn't find anything. Yet here is the media writing another smear piece, acting like anyone who has a problem with the Epic Game Store is just a full-on hate mob. And yet they're ignoring the story about Unfold Games doing right by the developers and how gamers are praising this developer. Something else that's interesting is in this same article that I'm talking about. Further down, if you read through the comments, somebody specifically asked the writer of the article about how come Kotaku isn't covering anything about this developer and how basically no one is covering this story at all. And you know who responded? Stephen Totilo, the editor-in-chief at Kotaku, responded down in the comments and tried to pretend like, oh, we're unaware of this at Kotaku. Oh, I'll have to discuss this with my writers, and maybe I don't know if it's newsworthy. We might cover this story. Of course it's newsworthy, first off. And second off, do not try to act for a second like Kotaku is unaware of this story when Jason Schreier, your premier writer, was discussing this on Twitter days before. 3 days before. And now Stephen Totilo is trying to feign ignorance and act like, oh, we here at Kotaku, oh, we didn't know about this story. Oh, no, they don't want to cover it because it goes against the Epic Game Store narrative and it goes against the anti-gamer narrative, the all gamers are harassers narrative that the mainstream sites want to push. Something else that's interesting that further makes me not believe anything coming out of the guy's mouth is that their sister site, Kotaku Australia, actually did cover this story 3 days ago. And yet he's still going to sit here and act like, oh, shucks, golly gee. Oh, why didn't we cover that? Well, actually, no one's covering it. Even now, when you look up dark news, you will still find like 3 or 4 total articles written about it. There's an article from GamesIndustry.biz, PC Gamer covered it, and I think one other outlet, WCC Tech, I think. That's it. There's been no follow-ups. No one's covering the story whatsoever because it would paint gamers in a positive light. And it would show gamers being positive towards a developer. And it would show a developer actually doing right by the community and then the community rewarding that. Even in my own comment section, I'm just a small-time YouTuber, but even in my own comment section, I saw several people saying, I'm going out to buy this game, I'm going out to buy this game, specifically because the developer is not screwing over their player base. Because it's so rare these days to find a developer that will do what maybe isn't best for them, but do what's right by the consumer. And I've said this before so many times, but we're in an age now in the gaming industry where it is completely flipped around and the industry themselves and the gatekeepers, the media, sit there and try to act like for some reason customers can't complain if you're complaining to a game developer. We just can't do it anymore. We are into it. That's harassment. Oh, they're receiving death threats. They're doing it now again with the Apex Legends situation. You will see the media rushing to the defense of the developers. Well, of course they're going to insult the gamers. Look how insulting the gamers are to them. But see, this is once again an example. And another time when I have to point out, I have to explain to the games journalists in the gaming industry that doesn't seem to understand this. You have to cater to the customers. Yes, even if they're being unreasonable. That is how literally every industry has worked since the dawn of time. This is not something that is exclusive to gamers. This is not something that is only happening in the gaming industry. But what is only happening in the gaming industry alone is that the industry thinks that it doesn't have to try to curry the favor of the people that it's attempting to get money from, when it absolutely does have to do that. And when people go out and say, I'm not buying this game because of X, it turns into, oh, these gamers, they're so entitled. They're so entitled. And now when a developer, a small indie developer, it just goes to show you, for all the talk and all the bluster from the mainstream media sites about, oh, don't go after developers, don't harass developers. Then when a developer actually does something that the community praises, the media then turns on the developer. Isn't that crazy? Because they didn't take the Epic money. And because they're pro-gamer. Because the media is totally 100% in favor of the Epic Game Store, and they're 100% against gamers. It's clear and obvious. It's been getting worse. We thought the peak might have been reached in 2014. That's clearly not the case. I would say it's worse now than it has ever been, because you literally cannot read an article on any of these mainstream sites that doesn't have something to say that's anti-gamer or anti-consumer. Propping up microtransactions, propping up clear anti-consumer practices from any company. It doesn't matter. Just name them. If it's anti-consumer, they will be an advocate for it. It doesn't matter. Yet when their little pet projects and their little passions that they have a problem with, well, they have no problem going after developers then. And this is just another example. A developer, I can't believe, it's mind-boggling to me that someone as high-profile as Jason Schreier is going to start calling a developer a martyr and acting like they did something wrong because they did the right thing by their customers. It's mind-blowing. And anyone who can't wrap their head around that, and anyone who cannot understand that you have got to keep the customer happy, it is just basic business. Since the history of business anywhere on the planet. I mean, this is just insanity to insist that it's totally fine to go out and insult your customers. You're trying to get money from them. You want to know what? The money only flows one way. You don't see customers trying to get money from the developers, do you? No, you don't. And then when you have developers like the people from Apex Legends who... You're trying to tell me that there's any defense at all for a timed set of skins that require someone to shell out the cost of 3 full-priced games to acquire cosmetic skins? You think that's justifiable in any way? I'm sorry. The customers for that game have every right to be irate. And the nonsense thing, well, just don't buy it. Just don't buy it, bro. No, the problem is it's an item that people do want. But the price tag is so astronomically insane that of course the people are going to be upset. And then when the developers turn around and start attacking the players, once again, it's the same conversation we keep having again. Oh, we're being harassed. Shut down the whole conversation. Guys, we're being harassed. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. And then what happens is any and all legitimate criticism that's coming from most of the player base will get ignored because there's a minute, like a percentage of 1% of a fraction of people that will go overboard and start sending really hateful stuff to people. And then that is used as an excuse to wipe out all conversation entirely. Can't criticize anyone that takes the Epic Store deal because now it's harassment. You can't go out of your way and criticize anything that a developer decides to do with monetization, apparently, because that's harassment. You can't say that you don't like a artistic choice that they made. It's harassment. Everything's harassment now. Because a few people will go out of line. And then they're like, gamers need to police themselves. How exactly do you expect people to police literally hundreds of millions of players on the planet who might have an issue, and a few minute fraction of people might lose their mind about something? How is any customer supposed to police that? And they're like, well, developers, of course, they're only human. Oh, well, see, here's the thing. If you're in public relations, as much as you may not want to hear this, and as much as this may pain you to hear, if you are a public relations manager or a community manager, it is quite literally your job to be the sponge that soaks up abuse on the internet. That is your job. Your job is to deflect it from the normal developers. So if you're a regular developer in there slinging bricks, hey, that's on you. Especially for a company like Respawn who works for EA, get some PR people and keep them exclusively on your Reddit. People whose job it is, who knows how to handle the abuse. People who can do that. Because this situation keeps happening. And it's the same scenario. The developer will turtle up into a shell, say, I'm being harassed, and then here come the media hit pieces. This is happening like on a semi-weekly basis at this point. And it's got to stop. It's absurd. And it's gotten to the point where we can't have any rational conversations in any forum. When it came to the Ooblets developer situation, pointing out stuff like I'm saying right now, people were telling me I was somehow defending death threats and defending harassers. Even when I explicitly said no one should be contacting the developers, somehow that is translated into me being part of the harassment just because I'm pointing out basic facts. The fact of the matter is this, and this is what it comes back in every video that I make, going back all the way to when I started first doing opinion-based videos. I've had the same stance. If you don't jerk your customers around and you don't treat them like they're idiots and that you are above them and you provide them with a good product, you will get nothing but praise from those people. Nothing. Gamers are the most willing people on the planet to throw money at you. All you have to do is not talk down to them. And don't lie to them. Don't have bad business practices. Don't sneak microtransactions into your game 2 months after it comes out. Don't throw loot boxes in after you said there wouldn't be loot boxes. Don't release your game on the Epic Game Store exclusively after you've been taking pre-orders on Steam for a year. Or if you've been crowdfunding your game and saying that it's going to get a Steam release, don't turn around and put it on the Epic Game Store. And if you do any of those things that I just mentioned, and you get backlash for it, it's deserved because you've lied to your customers. And if you get backlash for that, that isn't toxic, entitled gamers. That is gamers that are sick and tired of a decade plus of being lied to by every AAA company and several independent developers over the last decade. We are sick and tired of being lied to by people who are trying to take money out of our wallets. The only time there's any transparency is when it actually comes time to shelling out the cash. Then it's like, oh, pay here, yep, purchase here. That's the only time. It's only when the wallets are out. Then comes the truth telling. Once everything's bought and paid for. It's got to stop. And for the games media to sit there and cover up all these bad practices and to try to act like any kind of backlash is just sort of internet hate mob campaign is just totally disingenuous. It's totally hypocritical, especially when anyone who goes against their narrative gets instantly ostracized. It happens all the time. And here we have an example. A lot of times they ostracize developers when it's something to do with, we don't like what they said on Twitter. They said something we disagree with, so we're not even going to review this game. They do stuff like that. But here we have a situation where simply a developer did what he said he was going to do. And you have people like Jason Schreier calling him a martyr. Well done, games media. And Kotaku trying to act like they're completely oblivious to the entire scenario. The whole situation. We just didn't know. Oh, whoops. Yeah. But they have no problem continuing to pump out hit piece after hit piece after hit piece on gamers as a whole. Just taking random pot shots on gamers. That's it. I gotta go. I've had enough of this conversation for the day. I'll talk to you guys later. That's it from me, Coach Toolshed. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please subscribe. If you want to stay in tune with the channel, head forward. And as always, keep it turned to 11.